Chapter 1. A Wound Without, Healing Within by Victor Hugo from the book Les Miserables. Thus their life clouded over by degrees. But one diversion, which had formerly been a happiness, remained to them, which was to carry bread to those who were hungry, and clothing to those who were cold. Cosette often accompanied Jean Valjean on these visits to the poor, on which they recovered some remnants of their former free intercourse. And sometimes, when the day had been a good one, and they had assisted many in distress, and cheered and warmed many little children, Cosette was rather merry in the evening. It was at this epoch that they paid their visit to the Jondrette den. On the day following that visit, Jean Valjean made his appearance in the pavilion in the morning, calm as was his wont, but with a large wound on his left arm which was much inflamed, and very angry, which resembled a burn and which he explained in some way or other. This wound resulted in his being detained in the house for a month with fever. He would not call in a doctor. When Cosette urged him, "Call the dog doctor," said he. Cosette dressed the wound morning and evening with so divine an air and such angelic happiness at being of use to him, that Jean Valjean felt all his former joy returning, his fears and anxieties dissipating, and he gazed at Cosette, saying, "Oh, what a kindly wound! Oh, what a good misfortune!" Cosette, on perceiving that her father was ill, had deserted the pavilion and again taken a fancy to the little lodging and the back courtyard. She passed nearly all her days beside Jean Valjean and read to him the books which he desired. Generally, they were books of travel. Jean Valjean was undergoing a new birth. His happiness was reviving in these ineffable rays. The Luxembourg, the prowling young stranger, Cosette's coldness, all these clouds upon his soul were growing dim. He had reached the point where he said to himself, "I imagined all that, I am an old fool." His happiness was so great that the horrible discovery of the Thénardiers made in the Jondrette hovel, unexpected as it was, had, after a fashion, glided over him unnoticed. He had succeeded in making his escape, all trace of him was lost. What more did he care for? He only thought of those wretched beings to pity them. Here they are in prison, and henceforth they will be incapacitated for doing any harm, he thought, but what a lamentable family in distress. As for the hideous vision of the Barrière du Maine, Cosette had not referred to it again. Sister Saint Mechtilde had taught Cosette music in the convent. Cosette had the voice of a linnet with a soul, and sometimes, in the evening, in the wounded man's humble abode, she warbled melancholy songs which delighted Jean Valjean. Spring came. The garden was so delightful at that season of the year that Jean Valjean said to Cosette, "You never go there, I want you to stroll in it." "As you like, father," said Cosette. And for the sake of obeying her father, she resumed her walks in the garden, generally alone, for, as we have mentioned, Jean Valjean, who was probably afraid of being seen through the fence, hardly ever went there. Jean Valjean's wound had created a diversion. When Cosette saw that her father was suffering less, that he was convalescing, and that he appeared to be happy, she experienced a contentment which she did not even perceive, so gently and naturally had it come. Then it was in the month of March, the days were growing longer. The winter was departing, the winter always bears away with it a portion of our sadness. Then came April, that daybreak of summer, fresh as dawn always is, gay like every childhood, a little inclined to weep at times like the newborn being that it is. In that month, nature has charming gleams which pass from the sky, from the trees, from the meadows and the flowers into the heart of man. Cosette was still too young to escape the penetrating influence of that April joy which bore so strong a resemblance to herself. Insensibly, and without her suspecting the fact, the blackness departed from her spirit. In spring, sad souls grow light, as light falls into cellars at midday. Cosette was no longer sad. However, though this was so, she did not account for it to herself. In the morning, about 10 o'clock, after breakfast, when she had succeeded in enticing her father into the garden for a quarter of an hour, and when she was pacing up and down in the sunlight in front of the steps, supporting his left arm for him, she did not perceive that she laughed every moment and that she was happy. Jean Valjean, intoxicated, beheld her growing fresh and rosy once more. "Oh, what a good wound," he repeated in a whisper. And he felt grateful to the Thénardiers. His wound once healed, he resumed his solitary twilight strolls. It is a mistake to suppose that a person can stroll alone in that fashion in the uninhabited regions of Paris, without meeting with some adventure.